What's up, guys? My name is Justin. Welcome back to the channel today, and we are back for part number 2 of my Camaro Track Day weekend with Bluey this past weekend. My first time on track, and it was a big one at Road America. So today we're going to break down, I'm going to try to hit all these topics if I can remember everything. We're going to talk about why I found turn 5 and turn 11 the kinks so technical. I want to talk about kind of the brake failures and kind of the shortcomings that eventually took us out of the running for the weekend, unfortunately. I want to talk about my plans for next year and what may be happening, and then we'll get into some other stuff and get off topic, I'm sure, as I usually tend to do when I talk. So first of all, I want to address why there's no in-car footage, and hopefully we can get that settled next year. There were other things that were on my mind that were more important to get set for this very first day, as far as making sure the car was prepped, making sure I was prepped, making sure I could learn as much as possible without having to worry about content creation or anything like that. I didn't want to bother myself getting too caught up in the in-car audio, video, all that type of stuff. I wanted to go out there and I wanted to learn. I wanted to be able to make laps reliably, make sure the car would take it, and soak up as much knowledge as I could this weekend without having to worry about content creation. So that's in the plans. I know that that's something that would look really cool on YouTube, so don't worry, it will come at some point. I will get that set up. I have the whole winter now. I got probably 6 months of Wisconsin winter to make sure things are a little more up to snuff for that. So don't worry, I will get that settled before next year, and I'll come up with something. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like yet, but I'll come up with something. Before we get rolling here, just a couple thanks that I want to hit on. Thanks to my parents again, my brother Ryan for all their support and all their help this weekend. Mike and Erica Geiger and their son Kale for all their help, their tips, and Kale's amazing pictures this weekend. They turned out fabulous, so thank you so much for all of that. Luan, follow my line. Again, I'm not wearing the shirt today. I got my CF shirt on today, but I will link his channel down below. Follow my line. He's a great guy, incredible help. So many tips and things he gave me throughout this process that were invaluable. So he has a really great YouTube channel about his Camaro 1LE SS and his track day tips behind the scenes, as well as his track day video content. So great guy, wonderful follow. I'll link his channel down below. Everybody in the JKR Discord, everything else that supports me and helps me, and how we got to this point, and I couldn't have done it without them and their encouragement and their tips they gave me as well. So if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. It's just going through the top of my head. But first, I guess we'll talk a little bit before we get into the actual track day stuff. Someone asked me this afterwards. How much did the sim, how much did my time on iRacing impact my preparedness and how ready to go I was for this, especially since I know the Road America track like the back of my hand as both a spectator and from the sim, but obviously I've never driven on it. And what was that like, and how did it equate? How did my expectations match up? That kind of thing. So I'll start out with that. I want to say that first of all, it felt, because I knew the track layout and because I knew where the corners went, what to expect as far as elevation changes and things like that, it felt very natural. It felt very slow. None of it was ever overwhelming. I never felt like I was lost or in over my head or anything like that. I was learning, and it was a steep learning curve. But it felt very natural as things were coming together and we were putting laps together and I was learning. It all felt like the first time you learn a track on iRacing, any other track, and it came very quickly to me. It came very quickly looking for brake markers and marshal posts and where I need to place my car and how the curbs work and which curbs you can use a little bit and which ones you definitely want to avoid. Brake markers, all these things came very quickly to me. So that was wonderful. As far as if it'll make me better in the sim or if it would have mattered, I don't know. Obviously, I can't go back and relearn for the first time over again, so I don't really have a good answer for that. But as far as whether or not the preparation of understanding the track layout and how things were going to run helped, I definitely think it did. I definitely think it was a huge boost. Obviously, you can't really get a feel, the seat of the pants feel. That's the drawback of sim racing. You don't get a seat of the pants feel as to how the elevation feels, how the G-forces feel, the wind in your hair, things happening that you're not ready for, flagmen off to the side of the track, obstacles, debris, etc. None of that came from the sim. That was all just I was having to experience that for the first time live as it was happening. But that's good. That's what you want. That's why you do these things in real life. Otherwise, I could just go sit on the sim for endless amounts of time and never hit the track for real. And I didn't want to do that after 11 years of sim racing. So that was cool. I want to touch on that. But now let's talk a little bit about why I found turns 5 and 7 so difficult. I guess the first part, like I said, with the sim was that I had no idea how steep the brake zone downhill was for turn 5, really. It's really a big crest when you get to about 500 or 600 meters before your entry point. It feels like it's a 10-story drop. It's not, and it's probably not that big of a hill, but when you're in the car and you're not used to feeling that downhill, it's huge. And I didn't feel that way even in hurry downs because it was more gradual and because you have good sight lines and everything. There's no trees lining there. Like when you're on the run down turn 5, if you're not familiar with Road America, it's a little bit of a curve actually right at your brake marker. So you're actually coming at the corner at an angle. And so you have to turn the wheel before you get there to straighten off your line rather than following the curvature of the track. And that really messed with my head, not like it did into 12 even. Like into 12 is a similar feeling. Trees on both sides, you're lining up your brake zone, but you're turning the opposite way of where you're lining up for turn 12, Canada corner, versus turn 5, you're turning into it, straightening, and then turning back the same way. So it's very easy to get too far over to the right if any of your timing or your placement's not off. And I found that very, very tricky to adapt to, which was very strange. I didn't feel that way about the uphill sections, turn 6 Corvette corner, up the front straightaway. Those are big hills, like those are properly big hills, but I guess because they were straightaways or because there wasn't immediate corners, I didn't quite feel as like whoosh or whoosh to that. Ignore that noise I just made. So that was very strange. I definitely learned a lot in that, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it. And the corner that everyone says is the one you have to be fearful of and be really careful of, and it's true, is turn 11, the kink, on the back straightaway after the carousel. And I think on my best lap, we rolled through there at like 86 miles an hour or something. I have no idea if that's good. I mean, it's not fast, obviously. But it's a pretty simple corner as long as you're paying attention, your sight lines are good, you know where your car placement needs to be. Maybe it's the new pavement that helps that. I don't know, obviously. I didn't get to race on the old pavement there. But essentially, there's a curb on the left side at the motorcycle chicane. If you just again, I'm running 335 horsepower at best. That's engine horsepower. I have no idea what that equates to wheel horsepower with the A8 transmission. But dab a brake for like 60, 70 yards, meters, whatever, at the start of the curb at the motorcycle chicane. By the time you get to 100 meters before the corner at turn-in point, you're back on maintenance throttle, turn in, nice and smooth, nice, just a little like 2 o'clock. Get the nose in, and the thing rolls right through. Even on the tires I had, the Toyo extends the HP2s, and again, they're not that wide, but they had plenty of grip through there. I never was fearful. I was very, very comfortable through the kink quickly. Luan, who had junked his SS1LE, the blue one, he still needs to let me know what color it is at the time of recording this. He obviously found that corner is very, very tricky at like 110 miles an hour, but we were 25 miles an hour slower than that. But yeah, it was an interesting experience. I wasn't ever fearful of that corner. Again, I know the profile. I know where I need to put my car from thousands and thousands of laps in the sim. I just had to trust that I could do it for real and that the guy sitting next to me knew what he was talking about, which they all did. So that was great. Wasn't scary. Obviously, you have to be paying attention. You have to be on your marks. I think it helped that there's not really a passing zone immediately before that. So I knew that from the exit of turn 8, nobody was going to be passing me. I could focus, get my line for the carousel right, get my markers right, get my brake point right for the kink, all those things versus, any of the long straightaways. You're constantly looking in the mirror, not constantly, obviously, but you're looking for cars coming up to pass you point by. We were just about the slowest thing out there. I mean, there were some Mazda, they were probably track preps, but they were street cars. They were like WRXs and I guess they were probably Imprezas and wagons and stuff, and there was a Miata, and I don't think the Miata was faster than me on the straights, but the Miata was definitely faster than me around the lap. There was an FRS or an 86 or whatever, the BRZ first gen that was pretty fast, but I think I was probably better over a clean lap than they were just because I had more straightaway speed than them. But that car, again, roughly the same pace, but I don't think we were the slowest. We were probably like third slowest. But you're looking constantly. I was looking, there was a guy in our group, the novice group, that had a GT500 Shelby. And he was rapid, obviously. He was probably 30 miles an hour faster down the front stretch and into 5 than I was. And so he's coming like crazy. You go through 2 corners and he's not behind you at all. And you look up in the mirror coming up the front stretch hill and he's on you. So that was a lot of looking around for that stuff. But I never was scared of the kinker. I was never worried about it. I felt like, the first couple of times I didn't really know what I was doing, but once I figured out how the car would cut, how everything would work, the brake zones that I needed, I felt really comfortable through there, and it was not a problem corner. It was the guy, again, they probably say this all the time when you just don't die, but the kink was probably one of my better corners in that last section. I felt like was pretty good too, between 12 and 14, Bill Mitchell Bend. I did get in a bad habit. I think I talked about this in yesterday's video. I did get in a little bit of a bad habit in turn 12 of turning in too soon. I think in my mind, was like, oh yeah, I got this. It's fine. Focus on turn 5 and not blowing that corner and going flying off in the kitty litter or anything. And so I relaxed and went back to my sim racing habits again. I've talked about in the sim and in real life, I'd assume too, if I got to that point. I need a catchy front end. I'd rather it be, loose as fast, that whole mentality. I need the front to cut, and I'll deal with the back sliding or not coming with me or whatever. I need my front end cut, because if I'm plowing my balls off and the front's not cutting, I feel very, very uncomfortable, and it's not good. So I need my front cut, and I think that the sim has taught me to turn in a little bit too early for that, so maybe that's a drawback of the way I learned it, but it was definitely an experience. Didn't really have fear for 11, didn't really have fear for braking for Canada corner or turn 1 or anything like that. They're fast corners, and like I said, the fastest I ran into the long straightaway brake zones was roughly 125 or so, which isn't that fast, but it's pretty fast. I mean, it's double the speed limit there or thereabouts. So that was all good. Learned a lot, like I said, and there's definitely some things to build on next time out, and we'll get to that shortly as well, but I definitely learned a lot as far as the track layout and how to approach it and what I need to do to get around there, so that was great. Now, the ending to our weekend came early in the third session of Saturday. I went out with Scott, my instructor that I mentioned yesterday, my third instructor today, and first lap out into turn 5, got through decently well, I felt, got around the first lap good. Insane brake shake, just unbearable, unbelievable, as bad as you can imagine. Brake shake. The thing when you're on brakes is wobbling like this, and it was not good. We were in no danger of going off. I don't think the car was not broken or anything, but something was wrong, either with, like I talked about, the pads coming off and mending to the wheel, or mending to the rotor, I should say, or rotor warp, or something like that happened, and it was a mess, and it was just not comfortable. It was not reliable where I could hit my marks every time, and that's not ideal for learning either. So we decided to come pull in, check that out, and unfortunately Scott was not familiar, and the Camaro, one of the Camaro instructors that we talked to was not familiar with the EBC Blue Stuff pads and how they wear. So we could not make a definitive diagnosis on what was going on, if it was a pad issue, a pad bedding issue that I made during the week preparation. What the deal was. If it was a warped rotor, it didn't look like it, but that doesn't mean anything until they cool and you can see the hot spots. So that all kind of came together, and I just said, look guys, I don't want to waste your whole day here trying to figure out this issue. It's not that big of a deal. It's not worth it. I will figure it out and learn. I've already got brain overload from the things I've learned in the first hour and a half on track. I don't need to spend your whole day trying to sort this issue out when there's bigger fish to fry for everybody here, including myself. So that kind of sucked that we got cut short, but I still learned a lot. I'll still have to go and diagnose and figure out with someone that's better equipped and more knowledgeable than myself what it is. If it is a warped rotor, I don't know. I'll have to give that a look. So unfortunate that happened, but that's part of it. Like I said yesterday, stuff breaks, stuff happens. That's part of race cars and part of this sport that I love so much, and we'll just have to hope for the best next time and try to be a little better prepared and hope we don't run into those same issues. So I think there's a lot of improvement to be made all around. Speaking of that, I don't really have a game plan yet for next year. I haven't really thought too much about what I want to do. I talked with my brother briefly on the way home, just kind of recapping in real time on our drive back from the track. I love Road America. Obviously, it's my home track. It's a world-class road course. I think it's a FIA Spec 2 or whatever, second rate. They can't host Formula 1 races, but obviously IMSA races there, IndyCar races there, and NASCAR used to race there. It's a very, very safe, very highly rated, very professional, very world-renowned racetrack. Probably one of the 10 top racetrack road courses in the United States. And I'm very thankful to have that like an hour from my house. That's really special not to go under the radar. I would like to see what my car can do on a track that's not so straight dependent with heavy brake zones, because those are the two weaknesses of my car. I think the tires, I'm probably under tired a little bit. Like I said, 245s are not huge tires, but I definitely am underpowered to keep up with the guys in their Shelbys that have, literally double and then some the horsepower that I got on board my car. So that's a little bit frustrating. But then, like I said, I'm definitely under-braked as well for repeated high-speed brake zones like that around the track, like Road America. I mean, there are three huge brake zones and probably another 2 big brake zones, long brake zones that require some good braking power and longevity. And I didn't think the power was that bad. The brakes seem to work well. It's just the heat and my ability to run, good compounds, good pads, big rotors. They're not drilled or slotted or anything, so they do overheat quickly and they don't wear that great. in the long term. I don't think so. We'll know. Who sees? Who knows? We'll see. We'll see. Who knows? I can English. I promise. I say that every time. We'll just have to play it by ear. I don't know if I want to try a different track with MVP. I mean, Audubon Country Club is not too terribly far from me. I mean, it's in Illinois, but it's not 12 hours from me or anything like that. And that'd be a little bit of a hike, but that's a little bit more of a twisty track. It's still a long track and it has some straights, but the problem with that is that would be an all new track. I've never seen laps there. I've never watched highlights there. There's no like racing series I can go watch, or I don't know that layout of that track at all. And so that would be a lot of homework and I'd be starting almost from scratch. Whereas at least Road America, I know the track layout very well and where everything goes. So I'll have to think about that. The other considerations are, like I said, a lot of autocross opportunities near me in the Fox Valley that I could look into, different clubs, groups that run a lot of events a year. And then I'm not so limited by power, because autocross isn't necessarily just about power. It helps sometimes, but you gotta know how to harness it. And that's a lot more about lateral grip, slow speed, precision, not hitting any cones, braking maneuvers, all those things. And it's shorter bursts. You're running like a 1 minute or maybe a 90-second run through your course, whatever. So that's all stuff I have to consider. So let me know your thoughts if you want to see Road America again, if you want to see me do a different track, if possible. If you want to see me try Mid-Ohio, they go to Mid-Ohio too. That's a little bit more of a hike, but again, not out of the realm of possibility to drive to. If you want to see me try some autocross, again, I will get some stuff set up for in-car footage. Luan has a great video about audio-video, and I'll have to figure out how deep I want to dive into this. But again, my concern is that this being my everyday car and my only car, I don't want to mend it too much towards a track build. I don't want to go huge brake kits and all this stuff on it, because I still got to drive it every day. It's got to be reliable and cheap to run somewhat. So we'll see how that goes, but that's kind of a quick synopsis again about part 2 of what happened this weekend. And hopefully it was an enjoyable weekend for everyone that came with and was involved. And again, thanks to Mark and everybody else for putting this together, my 3 instructors, Luan, all my family, friends, everybody that supported it. And I'm already excited to go do something next year. We'll see what it is, but let me know your thoughts down below, and we'll get back on track. So thank you all so much for the love and support. Tomorrow we'll get back to Iverson content with Ringmeister, and then be on to some new stuff that I haven't done yet. So we'll see how that turns out, but I hope everybody's having a wonderful Tuesday, and we'll get back to it. So I appreciate you all as always. Till next time. Bye.